coolest superpowers that angels have according to the Bible. The first ability is invisibility. We see this specifically in Numbers chapter 22 when a man named Balaam was riding his donkey, but God placed an angel in his path. The donkey could see the angel, but he couldn't, so the donkey just kept on veering off the road. It's interesting to note that the angel had the ability to let the donkey see it, even though animals can't usually see angels, but the angel prevented Balaam from doing so. Eventually, Balaam's eyes were open to be able to see the angel standing on the path before him. The second ability is enhanced strength. This gets referenced when Peter talks in his second book, saying that angels are greater in might and power than humans. One feat displaying their strength is when one angel rolls away the stone in front of Jesus' tomb, which would have been about 2,000 to 4,000 pounds, and he would have had to have rolled it up an incline. So I'm assuming that they're at least comparable to the strength of somebody like Captain America or Spider-Man, since they are a part of the army of God. The third ability is a capacity to destroy cities single-handedly. In 2 Samuel chapter 24, we hear of Jerusalem being punished because of their King David's wrongdoings. It's described that an angel was going to destroy their entire city of Jerusalem just by stretching out his hand. Admittedly, it's a little bit ambiguous what this means because we don't know how specifically the angel was going to do it, but based off of this, angels do have the ability to wipe out cities just by stretching out their hand. The fourth ability is kinda terrifying. It's their ability to kill people at an alarming rate. In 2 Kings chapter 19, we hear of one angel going at night and killing 185,000 Assyrian soldiers while they're sleeping. The people in those armies would generally sleep around 6 hours maximum, so the angel would have had to have killed the men at a bare minimum rate of over 30,000 men per hour, or about 8 men killed per second. But it's more likely that the angel didn't take the whole 6 hours and probably killed the men way quicker. The fifth ability is called pyrokinesis, or complete control over fire. We see this in Judges chapter 6, where a warrior of Israel named Gideon was told by an angel to place meat and bread on a rock. Then the angel touched it and fire flared up from the rock itself. We also see in Job chapter 1 where Satan, who is an angel, sends down fire from the sky that kills Job's servants and sheep. We know that they're also completely unaffected by fire, as in Daniel chapter 4 when Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego were thrown into a blazing furnace that was so hot that it killed the guards who put the 3 of them in there. But we see later that the 3 of them are just standing in the fire completely fine, with an angel standing right next to them in that blazing furnace. The sixth ability is a control over animals. In Daniel chapter 6, Daniel was thrown into a den of lions because he refused to worship anyone other than God. But when he was down there, God sent an angel to shut the mouth of the lions. And since one angel probably couldn't hold multiple lions' mouths shut just with his hands, it's most likely that the angel just controlled the lions and told them to be calm, similar to how in Star Wars a Jedi can connect with and control animals with the Force. The seventh ability is that they can make humans mute for an extended period of time. We see this in Luke chapter 1 where the angel Gabriel comes to tell Zechariah that he and his wife are going to have a kid, even though they were both over 85 years old at the time. Zechariah didn't end up believing Gabriel, so Gabriel made him mute until the time his son John was born. We also see this in Luke chapter 14 where a demon possesses a boy, making the boy mute. But when Jesus casts out the demon, the boy was able to speak once again. Remember that demons are just angels who rebelled against God, which adds to this idea that angels do indeed have this ability. The eighth ability is flight, which might seem obvious at first, but let me explain, because it's a little bit more complicated than you might think. Angels besides cherubim and seraphim are never actually described in the Bible as having wings, looking more like humans whenever they do show up in the Bible. But in the last book of the Bible, Revelation 14:6, John describes seeing an angel flying directly overhead. So if John isn't talking about cherubim or seraphim, angels have the ability to fly weightless, similar to how Superman does it in his movies. The ninth ability is virokinesis, or an ability to induce sicknesses. We know this because in Job chapter 2, where Satan, who himself is an angel, is able to, and I quote, afflict Job with painful sores from the soles of his feet to the top of his head. Satan being able to inflict this disease on a human tells us that other angels should have this same ability to inflict humans with diseases at their own will. The 10th ability is a control over the wind. We see this in Job chapter 1, where God gives permission for Satan to test this man named Job's faith by taking away things in his life. And one of the the things that happens to Job is that winds come down and knock down all the walls in his house, killing all of his children. And since it was Satan doing this and he is an angel, it makes me think that angels have a similar ability to that of airbenders in Avatar: The Last Airbender. The 11th ability is actually pretty interesting. Angels can glow intensely bright, and we might know why they do it. We see this in different passages of the Bible, that in some instances when angels appear to humans, they end up shining brightly. Some are described as having appearances like lightning, and others are just said to have a bright light shining around them. The reason that they do shine is most likely because they've been in the presence of God, and when they don't shine brightly, they might have not been in the presence of God for a while. We see in other Bible passages when people are in the presence of God for a long time, like Moses, they can also start glowing. The 12th ability gave me chills. It's kinda disgusting. We see in Acts chapter 12, the king at the time named Herod was accepting praise as a god. So God sent down an angel in judgment to strike down Herod by having him be eaten by worms. So angels must have some sort of ability to control and maybe even create worms, and I guess this angel just chose to make them eat Herod. That might be one of the most gruesome deaths in the Bible. The 13th ability is possession. We know that demons can possess humans as they do multiple instances in the Bible, but in Matthew 8, Jesus sends out a bunch of demons from a man that they were possessing into a horde of pigs, so we know that demons can possess animals. As we've discussed in previous videos, demons are just angels who have rebelled against God, but we've never actually seen any angels possess anyone or anything in the Bible. My theory is that angels have the ability to possess people and things like demons, but they choose not to because God would consider it wrong for them to do so. The 14th and final one is immortality. There are no verses in the Bible that specifically say that angels are immortal, but we can see that they are through a little bit of research in the Bible. The angels Gabriel and Michael are both described as being alive in the Old Testament as well in the New Testament, which is about 600 years apart. So we know that they have a long lifespan. But we also have accounts of Satan, who is an angel, being described in Ezekiel chapter 28 as being alive in the Garden of Eden, and in Revelation we see him alive in the end times, which is after modern times. The Garden of Eden and creation of Adam and Eve most likely happened between 55,000 and 120,000 years ago, but the date could be stretched back as far as 230,000 years ago, making it pretty doubtful that angels aren't immortal.